Baby Reindeer. I'll tell you what, I've finished it and I enjoyed it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Baby Reindeer, wow. Guys, we're talking about Baby Reindeer in this video. If you haven't noticed, you probably have noticed because I've just said it. But we're talking about Baby Reindeer on Netflix, guys, right now. If you haven't seen it, guys, you need to give it a watch. Honestly, give it a watch. Baby Reindeer. It is a true story. The guy who is actually the main character within the show, he was actually stalked in real life by this woman called Martha. I don't know, was she called Martha or was that just the name he gave her in the show? But either way, he was being stalked by this woman called Martha. He had to deal with all this abuse, all these text messages, all these emails. Some of these text messages flirtatious, you know, and honestly, he had to go through hell. But what a show it was. What a show. When I first watched that show, I thought to myself, wow, you know, this guy had some mental strength to put up with this. He really did. No, guys, Baby Reindeer, it's not too long. It's not too long of a show. There's about 6 episodes, I think. They're all about 35 minutes long, each episode. But the long and short of it is, there is a woman who... There's this guy who works... Let's start from the top. Let's start from the top. So there's this guy who works in the pub, and one day a woman comes in. A large woman comes in. I don't know why I said large woman. She is a large woman. It doesn't matter, though. And she gets a free drink on the house because she says, I can't afford it. And it basically, short of it is, she gets a free drink on the house. She takes this kindness the wrong way and all of a sudden starts appearing in this pub every single day to literally, you know, she comes in every day, gets a free drink on the house, and this guy just can't get rid of her. He cannot get rid of her, but he actually grows to like her. But I must say, more than anything else, the weird thing is, you know, this is the guy's life, and the actual guy who was stalked in the show is the guy who was actually stalked in real life. This is his actual real life story. This is actually what he's telling us. So he's basically explaining what happened to him through the eyes of this Netflix show. But one thing I liked about this show was the obsession story. I liked the obsession story. I liked how it was written. I liked how it was written because she's constantly stalking him. She's emailing him, she's texting him. And you actually get to see what the text messages said. You know, she basically put some very, very crude things, and I cannot say what she said for the sake of this YouTube video. I cannot say it. Because if I say it, I could be in trouble. And what I like about this as well is how his life kind of falls during the stalking and how she's trying to kind of control him and ruin his life. She's constantly in contact with him, making his life a misery. And it starts to affect his life away from her. You know, this is a guy who's trying to do comedy as a career. He's trying to do stand-up comedy. He goes to these occasional gigs within the show to do comedy. And, you know, she actually turns up to a few of them. She turns up to a few of them and she acts nice at first. You know, the first time she's actually at one of his comedy gigs, she actually helps him almost. She kind of makes the show better. But then throughout the show, it gets a bit more like, you know, she's just turning up to cause trouble. But there's this guy who attends one of his comedy gigs and he says, I can turn you into the next superstar. And he ends up sexually abusing him. He ends up getting him into drugs. And he's not actually trying to help him. He's just in it for his own gain. It's what I gathered from that. He's in it for his own gain. He's not actually trying to help him. He's not actually trying to progress his career. He's just in it for his own pleasure. And it's all because of this horrible stalker, Martha, who, from watching the show, has a split personality because one scene she's lovely and the next scene she's swearing, she's being vulgar, she's being a horrible woman. And this Martha, played by Jessica Gunning, who was absolutely phenomenal in this show. I mean, you know, her acting performance in this show was, for me, at another level. She really excelled playing Martha in Baby Reindeer. Which brings me on to another thing I really like about the writing of this show. It's the fact that it's actually slightly comedic as well. It's actually a bit of a comedy as well as being rather serious, because obviously what happened to him is very serious. You know, this is something that could potentially ruin his life forever. But he's turned it into this TV show that is actually partially a comedy. When you're watching it, you can't help but laugh. You know what's going on is very serious, but you do laugh when you're watching it because it's still funny. It's funny the way it's written. And that is the genius of the show, I think, is that it's not your typical stalker show. It's not your typical stalker show. I've seen a lot of, you know, of stalker shows, stalker documentaries and so on. It's always very dark. It's always very gritty. A documentary, you'd probably expect that. But in terms of the typical stalker theme, you would expect it to be very dark. You know what I mean? Very gritty. But this has actually got a lot of a comedy. This has got a comedy aspect to it as well. It's got a very funny side to it that when you watch it, you do laugh. You do watch even serious scenes that you think to yourself, this is actually quite serious. There's certain dialogue that makes you laugh within that scene. There's a scene with Navamal. I think it's Navamal. She plays Terry, who's a transgender woman. And they're in the pub together, and Martha just comes in, and she's shouting, and she's swearing, and she's calling her every name under the sun, and you know it's quite a serious scene, but you just laugh because of what is coming out of her mouth. And Martha, oh my God, she was filthy. She was just filthy. Honestly, most things that came out of her mouth when she was either sending him emails or texts or in person, she was just being vulgar so many times, and it makes you laugh when you think about it, but it was so vulgar. She was filthy. Martha, you filthy devil. My ears are not a toilet, ladies and gentlemen. My ears are not a toilet, but this show made them feel like they are a toilet. But a really good show, and if you haven't watched it, you probably have watched it. You've watched it. I'm saying you've watched it, but a really good show. How it's written, like I said, it's very, very different in how it's written. It's not your typical stalker-themed TV show. It's not your typical, policeman show, cop show. But yes, guys, for me, such a great show. And I'm really glad that I watched it. Because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't expect to enjoy it when it started, to be honest with you. I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of the story. I didn't know what to make of it, particularly after that first episode. But the more I watched it, the more I thought, this is actually really good. This is a really good show. And if you haven't watched it, guys, give it a watch. But I'm going to say a lot of you have watched it. But there's going to be people that haven't watched it. I hope I haven't spoiled. I've probably spoiled it. I've probably literally spoiled it, haven't I? Oh, dear. Actually, I haven't actually told you the ending or anything, so... Oh, I feel like I've ruined a bits of it. But, guys, it is good. It's good. Baby Reindeer, that's my review. I would probably give it an 8 out of 10. I did find it very enjoyable. I found it very enjoyable. And there's not a lot of things these days that I find particularly enjoyable in terms of TV shows and films. I can't wait for Stranger Things to come out, the new season, and that'll be something I'll be watching. But apart from that, there's not a lot. But guys, Baby Reindeer, yes, guys, for me, a great show. And you guys give it a watch. And give me your views if you have watched it in the comments below, as always. Guys, thank you ever so much for watching this video. I will see you very soon for another video just like this, or a bit different. Guys, thank you very much. I will see you very soon. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. That's important. Subscribe to the channel. I'm almost forgetting what to say at the end of this video. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will see you very soon. Bye-bye, guys.